All right, seventh grade. So we are finishing up chapter 7 today, and it talks about here a dog has 3 puppies. The gender of each puppy is equally likely. Okay, so it's a 50-50 chance for each of the 3 puppies to be male or female. Decide a simulation involving 25 trials that you can use to model the genders of the puppies. So when we design a simulation, we want to design a simulation that represents the likelihood of an event. So since the gender, male or female, is equally likely from the information that it gives us, we want to do some sort of test simulation, a way that represents 50-50. We're going to flip a coin, okay? And so we're going to do the trial actually 25 times to model the genders of the puppies. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to say heads is male, tails is female. So if our quarter lands on heads, it's a male puppy. If our quarter lands on tails, it's a female puppy. Use your simulation to find the experimental probability that all 3 puppies are male. So this is what we're going to do, and this is going to be a little bit tedious, but this is the kind of thing you're going to be doing in class for this lesson, okay? So we're going to flip the coins, all right? And let me see, tails, so that's a female. We're going to flip it again. Tails again, so that's another female. Flip it again. Heads, so that's a male. Now we're going to flip it again. Heads, that's going to be a male. So our first one was female, female, male. First one male, flip it again. It's heads, so that's a male. All right, let me give us a little more room here. Flip it again. The heads, that's another male. So there's one. That was all 3 males. Flip it again. That is tails. So that's a female. Flip it again, and you can just see what we're going to do. Tails. So that's a female. Flip it again. Tails. So that's a female. Here we go again. Flip it. Tails, that's a female. Flip it again. Heads, so that's a male. Flip it again. And what do we got here? Heads, that's a male. Flip it again, and you can just see what we're going to do. This is going to take a few minutes, but heads, so that's a male. Flip it again. Tails, that's a female. Flip it again. Tails, that's a female. All right, flip it again. Heads, that's a male. You'll realize each trial represents the 3 puppies. So in this first one, 2 of them are female, 1 is male. Here's one that were all male. Here's one that was all female. All right, so you get the idea of what we're doing. And we actually have to complete the trial. So tails, heads, sorry, so that's a male. Tails, that's a female. We're going to flip it again. Heads, that's a male. We're going to flip it again. Heads, that's a male. We're going to flip it again. Tails, that's a female. We're going to flip it again. Tails, that's a female. We're going to flip it again. Tails, that's a female. We're going to flip it again. Tails, that's another female. Flip it again. We're just going to keep doing this. Tails, that's a female. Flip it again. Heads, that's a male. Flip it again. Tails, that's a female. Heads, that's a male. Heads, that's a male. Heads, that's another male. Tails, that's a female. And so you kind of realize how long this takes, but it's kind of what we got to do to actually get a good representation. Heads, that's a male. Heads, that's another male. Heads, that's another male. So now we have one. When I'm looking at the other ones, looks like there's one other one where all three puppies were males. So 2 so far in our simulation. Heads, there's another male. Heads, there's another male. And that's tails, so that's a female. Moving right along. Heads, so that's a male. Tails, that's a female. Heads, that's a male. Heads, that's a male. Heads, that's another male. Heads, that's another male. So here's a third time where all three were males. There's tails, that's a female. There's tails, there's another female. There's heads, a male. Now some of you might be wondering, I'm going to pause right here and say, well, once you know it's a female, why do we finish that round? Why are we spending the time to do that? And that's a good question. The reason we do that, though, is because we need the randomness of the heads and tails because there are 3 puppies. We legitimately need 3 different results for each trial. You might say, well, once you get a female here, why do we just skip this because this one doesn't matter? Well, it's because of the randomness of the coin. And we want to flip the coin each time to get the randomness of all 3 and get that combination. That's why we do that. All right, so we're moving right along. Thank you for your patience. There's tails, so that's a female. There's tails again, so that's a female. And there's tails again, so that's a female. All right, moving right along. There's tails, so another female. There's heads, so that's a male. And there's heads, so that's another male. Moving right along. That's tails, so that's a female. That's heads, so that's a male. And that's tails, so that's a female. Heads, so that's a male. Tails, so that's a female. And heads, so that's a male. Moving right along. Heads, so that's a male. Tails, so that's a female. Tails again, so that's a female. So here we go. That's tails, so that's going to be a female. That's tails, so that's going to be a female. That's heads, so that's going to be a male. 4 more trials. That's going to be heads, so that's going to be a male. That's going to be heads again, so that's going to be a male. Heads again, so that's going to be a male. There's another one where all three were males. Moving right along. Another male, that's heads. There's tails, so that's a female. There's heads, so that's a male. There's tails, so that's a female. There's heads, so that's a male. There's heads, so that's a male. Last trial. There's tails, so that's a female. And there's tails, so that's a female. Last one. There's tails, so that's a female. So when I go to my simulation, I see that there was 1, 2, 3, and 4 that were all male. That means that the experimental probability was 4 out of 25. Percent is out of 100. 25 times 4 is 100. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 over 100 is 16%. The experimental probability that all of the puppies were males was 16%. All right, we'll talk to you later, 7th grade. Bye.